Welcome to For Your Amusement, a theme park podcast that aims to exhaustively evaluate the world's most popular theme park attractions to determine if they are world-class. I'm Ryan Bergara.
I'm Byron Marin.
And for this episode's featured attraction, we blast off and hang on for dear life to discuss Xcelerator at Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California. And joining us in the fast lane is America's Coaster Network from YouTube as well as Instagram. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And as always, please like and subscribe to keep us alive if you're watching the video version over on youtube.com/@FYApod. Or if you're listening to the audio version, subscribe and rate the podcast 5 stars. And consider supporting us on our fourth wall, which is a different version of Patreon. You can join our fourth wall and become a park hopper, or as Byron calls it, an FYA hole, by heading to FYApod.com. Not only will it help us keep this madness going, but you'll also get up to 3 monthly bonus shows in addition to the main free show you're tuning into right now. And finally, FYApod.com is where our merch is. All that to be said, thank you for joining us. This ride has been in my life, well, the entirety of my life. I'm a SoCal native, so it's cool to. You can't really see his shirt right now, but it's a pretty.
Is there a way to like?
I don't know how you could turn around for the video viewers. Could you?
Let's see. Let's just see if this works.
Can you turn around?
All right, you can see my backside too. Does that actually work? Can you actually see?
I think that works.
That'll work.
That looks good. Yeah, that's some original Xcelerator merch, which they don't really sell anymore. We were just kind of lamenting about that before we started recording. Let's just go ahead and jump right into it. When we have guests on the show, we ask them to give a list of rides that they'd like to cover, and Xcelerator was on your list. What brought Xcelerator top of mind?
Xcelerator was the very first coaster that I covered with ACN.
Which is, by the way, how long has ACN been around? Because I became familiar with ACN via the YouTube channel, but we were talking before that it predates that by quite a bit. Yeah,
the website started in 2001. Yeah, I know.
It's amazing.
It makes me old. And then I did a Instagram in 2015.
Yeah.
And then YouTube started like about 3 years ago.
Oh, wow. So YouTube actually, I came in pretty much, I came in not too long after the start of it, because like I started watching your coverage about a year ago, particularly with Hollywood Drift. More so because I'd seen things before Hollywood Drift was coming around, but then Hollywood Drift is when I started watching every one of them.
That's good. That's good. I didn't even plan on doing any sort of vlogging. I was going to be more of some of the channels that do like the scripted videos and do all that. So the goal was to get the first video done in 2021. Yeah. And it was like a couple days before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So it's essentially all of 2022 and beyond. And then they started building Wonder Woman at Magic Mountain.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've never done this vlogging thing. I guess I'll go there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was so bad just for my opening of like, hi, this is Chris with blah, blah, blah. I probably did that 25 times, like retakes, because I would get in my head and everything. Yeah. So anyway, if
you haven't checked out his videos over at America's Coaster Network on YouTube, he's doing some great coverage over, especially of Hollywood Drift, really boots on the ground there, and very technical in the coverage. You actually know the terminology of like, because I've seen other coverage of that where it's like, I'm not sure what's going on right there, and then you're like, I'm pretty sure that's the start of a retaining wall right there that's going to come right here, and this looks like the start of a footer, but they haven't like, and I'm always like, yeah.
I like how the other guy is somebody who hasn't gone through puberty yet.
Yeah. You're like, I appreciate the insight and as getting as detailed as possible.
I appreciate that. I love construction just in general, not just coasters.
Yeah.
And so I know some terminology, but there's also times where I'll do a little research before, I'm like, oh, what's that piece of equipment down there? And I have to like Google it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to sound like a complete idiot.
No, and I mean, I think everyone would be lying if they didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so Xcelerator kind of takes it away all the way back to the start. That's like patient zero when it comes to covering the construction of coasters then.
Yeah. I mean, and that was before we had all the social media and everything.
Yeah.
And before YouTube.
Well, he was showing us off camera too the initial America Coaster Network site, like the actual like articles that were the construction updates for Xcelerator, and it brought me back because, believe it or not, I mean, I was young at that time, but I was, I started looking at the forums and construction websites when I was, I just turned like 10 years old.
And it reminded me, that track was really bright red at first.
Yeah, that's true, before it kind of became like the bubblegumish hue.
Yeah. I believe the official colors are seafoam green for the supports and coral for the track.
Coral.
Everyone said it was pink, or they made it pink. No, it was pink after it faded.
Yeah.
And then people fell in love with that for some reason. I said, no, it looks horrible. It needs new paint. And then they gave us what they have now, which I actually think is pretty cool.
You're not talking about the paint job on the cars, right? Or are you talking about the paint job?
No, the track.
The paint job on the cars kind of actually looks like similar to, it would be sponsored by your channel because it's like a patriotic theme.
Which that wasn't original.
Yeah.
So you had the
Well, they painted it wrong at first, right? The cars, like they painted it in reverse of what they were supposed to. That's what I read, and then they corrected it.
Yeah, they had the purple one, I think, and then they had one that was ended up being red with the right. Yeah, it was like
I think it was something. It was like pink and something else. But
they had yellow. They had yellow with red flames.
Yeah.
And I think that one ended up becoming the one that was red, I think.
Yeah, what I read was it was like the main color was the opposite of what it should have been. Like then they realized it, and then they're like, oh shit, and then eventually they went back and they changed it.
That was because it was yellow with red flames.
Yeah,
and then I think they made it red with yellow flames, which looks great. And then they changed one of them to the one that has like the flag on it.
Yeah, and it's kind of amazing how often that happens in the theme park world, even down to like the castle at Disneyland being backwards.
The castle at Disneyland being backwards.
The castle of Disneyland is actually backwards because when they built the model to show Walt, they realized they put the castle on in reverse, but he liked it so much that they were like, all right.
Oh, I can see that now. I never really thought. I see that. That's a tidbit that I never knew, but it makes sense.
But things like that happen all the time.
I mean, either way, you can't see it, but
You would think though, like building something as large as a roller coaster, having to go through all the levels of approval, something like that would get caught. But it kind of makes sense that these things kind of just fall through the cracks even at that level.
Yeah.
But anyways, Accelerator. What was your first impression of this ride? Like, because especially since you had covered the construction so much from the beginning, finally getting on it. Did it live up to what you thought it was going to be?
Oh, absolutely. It's still my favorite launch coaster ever.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I
have to ask, have you been on King to Ka? Have you been on Top Thrill?
Yeah, I had been on both.
Amazing.
Obviously, those came afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay, King to Ka, I didn't like because of the over-the-shoulder restraints.
Yeah.
And it's not as forceful of a launch. You don't feel it as much.
3.5 seconds.
Also, getting launched out of the station on an accelerator, I think adds a complete other level to it because just like with anything, if you're driving 70 down like through Kansas and there's open fields, you don't feel it as much as if you hit a tunnel.
Yeah.
So when you're in that station, the launch itself, when you have the people in the queue that are right next to you in the station, and you have that reference point. So when you launch, you really...
They disappear really quick.
They really do. So that adds another level to it.
And when you're just watching it in the station, the anticipation you get.
Yeah.
From that thing just taking off.
Yeah, because you don't get that on Top Thrill or Ka.
And I'm jealous because I didn't get to go on either. And obviously Ka's gone now, rest in peace. Yeah. It's gone, which is just one of those unfortunate things where I was like, well, I shouldn't have waited that long.
Well, we didn't really get much like too big of a warning, unfortunately.
There was rumors like a couple weeks before it closed.
Yeah, I was like, oh gosh, I guess I'll pack my stuff and fly to New York, but
which is why I appreciate it. Now we just got news that Dinosaur and Animal Kingdom is going to close in like 2026, I believe, which is like that's the ample warning I would have liked to have had to make a trip out there. From what I gathered, it obviously went allegedly it went 128 miles per hour, but apparently usually went only about like 119, 120. But that was in 3.5 seconds. Accelerator, what, 2.2?
Is it 2.7?
I think it might be 2.2.
It's 2.2.
2.3.
2.3. There we go.
82 miles an hour, 2.3.
Jesus Christ. That's I feel like
I'm the worst at stats. I am the worst.
I think the crazier thing too is it's 2.3, but it's also just 157 feet of track on the launch, which is I think all that adds up to it feeling more intense. And I know that's weird for me to say, but I was reading a lot about people in the forums were saying it feels more forceful than Ka and Top Thrill.
Ka had like this weird kind of like it was kind of jerky.
If you look at the footage, there's some shimmy to it.
Yeah,
like it looks like it's wiggling down that track.
Yeah, it's and Top Thrill is great. because it also had lap bars.
Yeah.
But Accelerator's my baby.
Yeah, there are some things in life where it's okay to be a total crapshoot, such as riding Accelerator and praying for a rollback. But you don't want a crapshoot when it comes to finding the right doctor for you, which is why there's ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much more. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. I personally used to despise the trials and tribulations associated with finding the right doctor for my needs, especially in a packed city like LA where appointment turnarounds can stretch for several months, but no more of that thanks to ZocDoc. So stop putting off those doctor appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/FY. Find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/FY. ZocDoc.com/FY.
For me, my first impression too was I just remember being in that station, seeing it take off. I don't get scared of roller coasters. I never really have. So any kind of coaster that could even give me a little bit of butterflies, like a little bit of trepidation is noteworthy. And there's only a couple in my life that have done it. This one, X2 also made me feel like, okay, this feels a little different. But this one is just so visceral because that takeoff from the station, like you said, they become a blur very, very quick. You could always hear just the clipped beginning of a scream. From somebody.
Yeah. That's and up to that point in Southern California, well, we had Montezuma's Revenge,
and then we had
Superman was around, but that was.
And to a lesser degree, we also had California Screamin', which is now Incredicoaster, which also has a launch, but that's 60.
55.
Oh, 55. Oh, wow, even slower.
Oh, yeah. I kind of. And another Intamin too. How about that?
Yeah,
that is. I keep forgetting that Disney went with an Intamin.
Yeah, I mean, well, they
California Adventure Construction, interesting times. They made a lot of interesting choices with those.
But either way, yeah, you're right. To that point, we didn't have anything that was that aggressive of a launch. My first impression was I just remember thinking how long the launch actually felt, which was surprising to me because you hear the stats, you know the stats before you go, you see it take off. You're like, that doesn't look like that's that long, but it feels like an eternity when you're in it. Like the force of the launch, it feels like it lasts forever.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest takeaway of like, holy shit. Because I thought I was going to be very underwhelmed by the ride length. But in reality, the launch is just so forceful that it makes up for the lack of duration of the ride. What about you, Byron?
Prior to Xcelerator, I think that's right. I had done Montezuma's Revenge.
Yeah.
That's a 55. That was the fastest accelerating coaster, I think. That and Rock and Roller Coaster that I've been on. Once again, LIM's on what was California Screamin' at the time. Not as forceful.
Superman?
I didn't do Superman back then.
Really?
Although Superman, I mean, I didn't ride Superman because it was always closed when I go.
That's true.
So I didn't ride Superman until after the pandemic, which luckily at that point it seemed like it was closer to it was like actually getting up that tower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I'd heard that like it was like it's only making it like 3/4 of the way up. I think even at this point now. So at least like right when they reopened after the pandemic, Superman was getting high up that tower.
Yeah, it was. I was on it. It was almost hitting the emergency brakes at the end there.
That's wild.
Oh shit!
It was like kissing them.
Yeah, I don't know if it does that anymore, but Superman it takes like 7 seconds to hit that 100 miles an hour. Whereas Accelerator, first off, I think I was early teenager. I think I was like around middle school age. I was still a little more skittish when it came to roller coasters back then. Like I still nerded out over them, but I was like kind of scared of riding them, ironically, which is probably what like contributed to increasing that interest. And Accelerator, I remember being genuinely terrified of getting on it. Once again, poker facing it, wasn't gonna let my teenage friends know that I'm like, this is scary. Like we're gonna do this, but I'm pretty scared. And even so, nothing could prepare me for that launch. Because I was thinking, like Rock and Roller Coaster had like a pretty intense launch, or what I felt was an intense launch at the time. And this thing, that gut punch I felt, it does feel like you are traversing so much more track to get to that top hat just because you feel that. And you're just like, oh my God, this is so sustained. I don't know how. Is my stomach going to explode? That was the first coaster. I don't know if you want to consider it a hyper, but it does exceed 200 feet and it is a full circuit.
That's a whole debate right there.
Yeah, because it's not a lift hill. So I get the argument there.
It's a really fast lift hill.
But once again, I think that was the first coaster I ever went on that had a vertical drop. It was the first coaster I went on that exceeded 200 feet. So this was like a barrier breaking coaster for me that made me feel like, oh, I could go on anything now. X2 had a similar effect on me as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that rush feeling like, and I mean, still to this day, like that launch, I've even been on Storm Runner at Hershey Park. Unfortunately never made it to Top Thrill or King to Cobb, but that first ride on Xcelerator was special.
That was something I was kind of thinking about coming into this. I was like, oh yeah, are we going to talk about it being a hyper or not? And because everybody's like, Knott needs to get a hyper, Knott needs to get a hyper or Giga. I don't know where the heck they're going to put it.
No, they're not going to have anywhere to put that.
No. I mean, technically there's room if they go over to the parking lot. But anyway, when Accelerator...
Would that interfere though with any kind of zoning that they have? I'm not sure how it is in Buena Park, but I know for Anaheim, it doesn't even matter if you own the parking lot area. It does not. That was the whole battle there. So I'd be curious.
Oh, as far as is the parking lot zoned for amusement?
It could be only for parking. That would be my guess, because I know that was the whole thing with the city council in Anaheim. So I don't know if Buena Park is as litigious, but
and unless they just took over more of the marketplace parking lot like they did with Ghost Rider.
Yeah. That'd be sweet.
So just there's like a good concept out there. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've not.
I've seen the because that was when I was getting really excited. I'm like, oh my God, is this real? Is it like, they even had like, I think height indicators on the drawings of like potentially how big. It was like, I don't think it was supposed to just be a Giga. It was supposed to be like a potentially like Fury 325 level.
Okay, yeah, there was that one that went out by like the hotel, and that one I said that's not going to happen. Yeah. They put that roof on the Ghost Rider's drop, because of the noise.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, noise ordinance needed to be a I don't know if it was officially the city that squashed it, or what, if that was the main thing. It was just the residents were going to be too pissed off on.
I mean, there's been a lot of history with the them complaining about stuff. But when Accelerator first came out, now this was only 2 years after Goliath at Magic Mountain.
Yeah.
So and so when it came out, everyone's like, all right, well, this is because every Cedar Fair park has a hypercoaster.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, okay, well, this is our hypercoaster. Now it doesn't have any room.
No.
205 feet. That's it. Cool.
Yeah.
And I'll take Accelerator over a lot of other hypercoasters, even though it's, not doing the same things in terms of airtime, except for the over the top.
I was about to say the ejector airtime.
There's just that little bit of ejector hair over the top hat.
It's only the entire descent where I feel like I'm going to die. But actually, before we get too carried away here, why don't we just go ahead and jump into the history then, Byron?
All right, let's figure out how we got here. And by all means, Chris, you were kind of there documenting a lot of this. You were really boots on the ground as this was being built. So by all means, step in, correct me if I botched anything.
Yeah, it's not often that I sit in a room where I feel like someone's coaster credentials are better than Byron. So this is actually a kind of strange experience.
It's undoubtedly so.
Do you mind? Am I asking how many credits you have? Do you know at this point?
I forgot. I am the worst with stats, even when it's my own. Like 400 and something, 430 something.
Holy shit!
Like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I stopped counting, but I haven't even breached 200.
Yeah, but you're close. I mean,
I have to be close, but I got to make a spreadsheet or something or update it. But whatever.
Yeah, I have a tracker that like a website that I go to.
Oh my God!
But there's people then they remember, like they can say, oh yeah, my 100th coaster was this, and my 200th coaster was this. I was like, I think my 200th, and this is somebody will debate me on this, was the retracked Ghost Rider.
Does that count? I mean, it's a different ride, it's a different experience.
I was on the fence about it, but it was new trains, 100% new track, and they did some reprofiling. And it rode completely different than it did, not when it was rough, but when it was new, because I rode Ghost Rider like early 2000s. So
I guess removing the mid-section brake front too.
And that just killed capacity. Like, whoever thought about that? We're totally off on a tangent now.
But made the ride awesome. I fucking love it. I like it.
No, because you probably only remember Ghost Rider when they used it as a trim brake.
Yeah, probably. Okay.
When it first opened, it was just for
you shouldn't have to use it ideally.
They never used it. It was just for
if the block zone ahead was occupied in like so they wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm just the resident dark ride guy here. Okay, this is the coaster guy. I'm the dark ride guy. But I like the Ghost. I like Ghost Rider how it is right now. Yeah, and I don't know if retracting it counts as a credit. But
so yeah, then there's people count powered coasters, and there's the whole thing.
Is Matterhorn 2 coasters? Like
that is. It's 2 tracks. Yeah. No, that's. we're
okay. You know what? Let's get into the history of Accelerator.
All this talk about the white knuckle thrills provided by Accelerator can sure make things tense, huh? Well, luckily for me, I know just the way to take the edge off because I've got Lumi Gummies, which in turn will probably get you wondering, Byron, what are Lumi Gummies? Well, Lumi Gummies are THC gummies delivered nationwide. And unlike with most gummies out there, Lumi Gummies keep the stress level down while simultaneously keeping the productivity high. I also love how there's no groggy side effects afterward too. God, that used to be very annoying, not gonna lie. And I will add, they are pretty damn delicious no matter what flavor you get them in or whatever strain you go with. My personal favorite is the Pina Colada Kush because, well, as a morning person, I like to keep my energy up through the day and this flavor does that just right. But on the occasion where I want to wind things down, their Granddaddy Sour OG is the one I go with right before bed. But whether you're trying to sleep, be creative, or just simply to looking to lower the anxiety a little bit, there is a Lumi gummy for you. Go to lumigummies.com. That's LUMI gummies.com and use code FYA50 for $50 off your order. Again, that's lumigummies.com. Code FYA50. All right. Well, to understand Xcelerator, it's important to understand Knott's Berry Farm, which is considered by themselves to be America's first theme park with over 100 years of history, which we have already covered in detail back on our Ghost Rider, Timber Mountain Log Ride, and Knott's Scary Farm episodes. So for this particular episode, we'll just jump to the 1970s. By this time, Walter and Cordelia Knott's Buena Park Berry and Chicken Dinner operation had evolved into a full-day destination, sporting an authentic Western ghost town and 2 industry-altering attractions designed by Berry Farm legend Bud Hurlbut, both of which still operate today, and one of them was already crowned world-class on this very official podcast. So needless to say, Knott's was primed to take their next step forward in cementing their significance in the theme park landscape. They would do so by purchasing a prototype roller coaster for roughly $700,000 that was constructed on Aero Development's manufacturing site in Mountain View, California. Opening as Corkscrew on May 21st of 1975, this would not only serve as the world's first modern-day looping coaster, but the first roller coaster to feature multiple inversions. Knott's wouldn't stop there. In 1976, adjacent to Corkscrew in what was at the time a new Roaring Twenties themed area of the park, a steeplechase coaster called Motorcycle Chase was added, which served as a more family-friendly offering. Just a couple years later, Montezuma's Revenge, the world's first flywheel launch coaster, was opened near the front entrance of the park in May of 1978. Some could argue that this launch system served as a stepping stone for the attraction we are discussing today.
Is that officially like a historic site? I've heard that since it's the first flywheel coaster that even if they wanted to, they couldn't take it down.
It was designated by ACE. They got a plaque. But the park
that American Coaster Enthusiasts?
American Coaster Enthusiasts.
Yeah.
They got a plaque. They give these plaques to all these historical coasters throughout the country, or I guess throughout the world.
Yeah.
But the park can still do what they want. It's not like
interesting.
Now I don't know. Maybe Ace can take back the plaque and say, now you've taken out the flywheel system. It's like with a building. Sometimes you have like these different level of protections where it's like a historical building or whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could still be torn down.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of more of, I mean, the way I see it is theme parks allow it and embrace it because it's kind of like marketing for them.
They're like, these nerds want to give us a plaque. Yeah, sure. Let's put it. Let's
Like, look at this award.
yeah, look at this. Yeah.
Well, I was clinging to that back when we didn't know. It seemed like it was dead in the water, at least for a year or two there. And I was clinging to the idea that, like, well, they can't take it away because it's protected. It's protected like a bald eagle. They will never take it away.
You're gonna chain yourself to the ride and be
exactly.
like,
With the rest of Ace.
I'm gonna chain myself to the ride and hold the plaque in my mouth. All right, continue, Byron.
All right, so we'll fast forward to 1996. The Roaring Twenties themed area of the park was fading in quality, and so too was the charm of their steeplechase coaster, which by this time had long retained its more popular name, Wacky Soapbox Racers. Many ideas floated around in regards to updating the theme of this northwest corner of the park, which would in turn shepherd a new roller coaster in place of Wacky Soapbox Racers. These ideas ranged from the Tomorrowland-inspired space and futurism to even the lost city of Atlantis. But most likely due to budget, Knott would go ahead and begin their initial steps of converting the Roaring Twenties into what many of us are familiar with today, the Boardwalk. Leaning into the beach-going vibes, Knott would pursue the development of a surf-themed roller coaster to take the place of Wacky Soapbox Racers. They would go on to accept a bid from the newly formed Togo International, which was a subsidiary of a notable Japanese coaster manufacturer at the time. The decision to choose Togo was a decision they would soon regret. Opening on March 26th of 1997,
Knott introduces a new side-by-side racing coaster, Windjammer. It'll blow you away.
Windjammer surf racers would quickly prove to be a disaster for the park. It lacked comfort, thrills, and most importantly, reliability. Millions of dollars worth of repairs were required within weeks of opening, and ironically enough, the coaster was incapable of completing its circuit when a slight gust of wind was present.
It would jam it though. That was
I guess it is true to form.
yeah.
Okay, I'm curious, have any of you guys rode Windjammer?
Oh yeah.
If I have, I
It was
don't
a very
remember it.
small window of time that it was open.
I am one of the few people that will honestly say I did not hate Windjammer.
Oh my gosh. This is exciting. You're the first person I've ever talked to that's ridden this, so I'm so excited to hear your review.
And yes, I was really devastated that they got rid of Soapbox Racers because I love that ride. And then again, I was a teenager, so whatever. I must have been like, I don't know, sick in the head or something. But no, I was at the park with my dad.
A glutton for pain.
No, I didn't. You just gotta keep your head forward on these ones. People that like, I don't know, people that say they get headbanging. If you keep your head back like this, you're gonna do this. If you just go like this, you're good. The park was dead, and I went around a few times because there was nobody in the station, so I just ran around and.
Do you get headbanging on Viper?
I don't because I'm tall.
So you just turtle your head out?
No, because like on
oh, the restraints. I see.
On Viper, I'm so tall that when the restraints hit my shoulder, it comes out at a diagonal.
Oh, interesting.
So when the ride operator goes, they go to like push down on it, and I just like look at them. I'm like, it's already hitting my shoulders. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I hear Viper's brutal on earrings, but
Viper's the worst headbanger I've ever had. I mean, this is a different manufacturer. The only Togo ride I could think of now isn't the New York the
yes,
that's also Togo.
That's Togo, right? And that's probably one of the worst roller coasters I've ever been on.
I think that's the last remaining Togo International coaster.
That's
as in,
what
like
it was,
the only one in the United States left.
I hear it's okay now, or not okay, but I hear it's better.
Well,
I heard it was better.
The premier trains that they put on there.
I hear it's an improvement, but I don't know. I also still hear
I had to get on it. I want to get on it again.
It doesn't fix the track profiling, unfortunately. But back to Windjammer, like how would you describe it? It essentially looks like a Wild Mouse coaster had a baby with just a standard looping coaster, right?
Yeah, it was because it just had that one loop.
That starts the ride.
Yeah, you drop into a loop, and then it just is like a little bit of a not a Wild Mouse, like kind of a little bit. It was an interesting coaster. It was interesting. I'm not gonna say I was in love with the coaster, but it didn't bother me. People are talking about it being like the worst thing ever, and that would be Green Lantern at Six Flags Magic Mountain, by the way.
Yeah, that ride's pretty bad.
That ride was the most painful.
That's
thing.
a crotch destroyer.
I missed that one.
From my recollection.
You also have to remember the lineup at Knott's Berry Farm really wasn't that big when Windjammer was there. So
yeah, what was actually around then? What was it?
So you got Ghost Rider.
Well, because when Windjammer opened in '97, right?
Yeah.
Was Boomerang around at that
So
time?
that's before.
Boomerang
That's before Ghost Rider. So I wrote it before
That's right.
Ghost.
It's the year before Ghost Rider.
I wrote it before Ghost Rider.
Holy shit.
So you had what? Montezuma. You had Jaguar. Definitely no Sidewinder. No Silver Bullet. No Pony Express.
Was Boomerang around by then?
Boomerang was around.
So you had Boomerang.
I liked Boomerang.
Boomerang and Windjammer was kind of the big. I mean,
Boomerang took the spot of Corkscrew.
Oh, interesting.
Which I still believe exists. The original Corkscrew. I think it's over in like Silverwood.
that is correct. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. and I wrote it there many years ago.
Oh damn!
It runs well. It ran well. I mean, it was 2008 when I was there, so it's been a while, but it's still going.
God, I haven't thought of Boomerang in a long time. I loved that ride.
They're not hard to find.
Yeah, no, I know.
They're all over. But anyways, back to Windjammer. It is important to note that in addition to Windjammer's failed opening in 1997, the Knott's family sold their park to Cedar Fair, which in retrospect may have had something to do with both the creative and budgetary choices being made during this period of the park's history. Also important to note that by this time, Ghost Rider had long been in development and is known as the last attraction that the Knott's family actually worked on. All that being said, Windjammer was deemed by Knott's representatives to be, in quote, an embarrassment. And after sitting dormant for years, mainly due to lawsuit purposes between Knott's and Togo, it was finally demolished in July of 2001 in order to make way for the attraction we are discussing today. Being that Knott's Berry Farm was now owned and operated by Cedar Fair, they would team up with Intamin, a coaster manufacturer they would become very familiar with during the 2000s. The result would be the world's first Xcelerator coaster model, which used hydraulic fluids to launch its riders at an unprecedented clip, ultimately sending them over 200 feet into the sky before traversing a one-of-a-kind top hat element prior to plummeting back towards Earth. Aptly named Xcelerator, the attraction of focus today opened on June 22nd of 2002 and still thrills riders to this very day. And although bigger and faster Xcelerator models would be constructed around the globe following the initial success of Xcelerator, I'll end this by mentioning that few remain and only time will tell if any can outlast the original. A couple extra notes that I did not have written in there was, of course, there's been a couple incidents. I don't know if they're in your fun facts. I didn't want to step on them too much.
Is that really a fun fact when somebody gets a cable to the face?
I didn't put that in the fun facts because it's not exactly fun. But yes, there was a cable snap.
Okay, there's a cable
2009
cable snap. It's unsettling footage. I don't think I'm going to show it on this show. Unfortunately, this happened to a few Xcelerator models.
Yeah,
around that kind of time period. There was also a few years ago, this was closed for like, I'd say a year and a half to 2 years almost. Shortly after they repainted this.
I think it was the winch drum was needed to get replaced. It was cracked.
That's right. There was some part that I guess it's hard to get their hands on because it took a considerable amount of time to get. So people were wondering, it's like, because Top Thrill had closed with their incident. So it was like, are they just trying to take out the hydraulic launch coasters now? And luckily for us, it's back up. I think it opened in November of 2023 again.
Yeah. It reopened in November 2023. I was joking that the new paint job was going to be faded by the time it reopened. Like that would be so perfect.
I was starting to get a little scared because there was no messaging around like when it was going to reopen. Similar to how it is with Montezuma right now, which gets occasional work that's mysterious. It was you that was covering that there was a McDonald's cup.
I was just gonna interject with that.
Yeah, so in one of his videos, it's actually a really apt observation because he was trying to figure out if there had been any progress, and there was a McDonald's cup that was left in the construction, and he had went back, what was like a week or two later, and it was still there.
And let's check in on the cup. It's still up there.
So like obviously not much going on.
Right. And that's also kind of a running joke because I was doing the same thing with Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
When I was shooting the construction there, I was like, oh, there's a McDonald's cup. And then came back the next week. I was like, oh, the cup is still there. And I mean, they were working on the ride, but it just goes to show that just the construction workers just don't pick up the trash. They just leave it there.
I think in the case of Montezuma, though, that was a clear indicator that they weren't really doing much because that thing was collecting leaves and...
Or it's dip spit. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, that's true. It could be. It'll open when it opens. I know there was a video released and I love that ride. I have I have a real nostalgic connection to Montezuma, so I hope Monty is back on its feet soon.
For me, like you were talking about Accelerator being the one that scared the shit out of you to get on.
Yeah.
That was Montezuma's Revenge for me.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay.
Because again, that was 95 that I went on it. So that was before Superman. There was no other launch coasters in Southern California.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I had to work up so much courage to get on that. I think I was 12, almost 13, and my buddy was like a year older than me, and gets me in the station, and then I see all these like little kids get on. I was like, oh.
My prevailing memory of Montezuma is I had my retainers, which is, you know how old I was, but I had my retainers in my case in my pocket, and it flew out on the loop, and I lost my retainer. So somewhere in the leaves is probably the retainer's probably still there with McDonald's cup.
Yep.
I'll look for it in the next update.
Yeah, I could get that back. Let's move on to some fun facts here. The ride is a whopping 1 minute and 2 seconds long, and obviously that is including, the breaks and the kind of buildup. That's not the actual ride time. It has a capacity of approximately, and this I find, I don't know if this is true, but it says approximately 1,330 riders per hour.
That sounds like an intimate estimate.
It's an estimate as if they were running 2 trains, but then even if they ran 2 trains, it doesn't even improve the capacity that much. It's still about the same as running 1. So heavy emphasis on approximately 1,330 riders per hour.
I think Intamin also has a reputation for putting very inflated capacity numbers up on their websites. So I don't know if it was pulled from there. Or...
Well, who's going to call them on it other than us nerds?
Yeah.
So it's like they don't have any incentive not to. A max speed of 82 miles per hour, falling from a height of 205 feet at a 90-degree angle, and a cost of a reported $13 million by the manufacturer Intamin. It was Intamin's first hydraulically launched coaster, as Byron pointed out. This is from the Knott's website, the official website. I'm just going to read a quote because it did make me laugh, because the copy is very funny. Hold on tight and make sure your knuckles are white, because this baby burns rubber across 2,202 feet of cool coral track.
Coral.
There
we go.
There it is. Cool coral track.
So evidently they didn't update it since they had the new paint job.
No.
Because I guess saying gray, red, and flame colored track is
This
not...
doesn't sound as cool as cool coral track.
Cool coral.
I also like hang on tight and make sure your knuckles are white. I'm going to say that to everybody I ride this ride with right before we blast off. And they're going to be like, what? And then break their neck. But yeah, that's from the Knott's official website. I thought I was very, very amused by that. The ride's sole face-melting launch goes from 0 to 82 miles per hour in just 2.3 seconds on only 157 feet of track for the launch. And the actual ride time of launch to brakes is 25.1 seconds. The ride, situated in the Boardwalk section of Knott's, is themed after the 50s, and the vehicles have the appearance of 57 Chevys. Cedar Fair, one of the parent companies of Knott's, now with Six Flags, apparently conducted speed tests on Xcelerator in which the coasters launched, reportedly, they launched at 117 miles per hour, and Chris was there apparently. I learned that before we started recording. I cannot believe that. So basically, this system was capable of being pushed beyond the 82 miles per hour, and the reason why they were pushing it was to conduct test design limits for Top Thrill Dragster in Cedar Point, which went 120 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds, only to be later topped by King Dakar, which went 128 miles per hour in also 3.5 seconds. Rest in peace to both of those, though Top Thrill is probably going to come back eventually. And there's footage of these tests, which I still cannot believe that you were there, and there is a person in the video saying, "It sounds like a jet, dude."
Sounds like a jet, dude.
It's Chris's friend.
Yeah.
When the ride goes 117 miles an hour. And reportedly, and this is what I wanted to ask you, and I waited to ask you on camera, apparently when this test happened, it caused the failure of a hydraulic hose on the launch motor and cracked the fiberglass shell on the train. But that was more than enough to prove that they could do Top Thrill.
I don't recall that like happening when I was there.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised. I was also thinking about just when you're talking about the stress on the track, because they used to, most people don't talk about it, but they added supports to,
really?
to the top hat like a year or two after it opened.
That's right. There's no cable going across like the horizontal.
So the two towers
Yeah.
used to be independent of each other. So the only thing that connected them was just the track.
Oh.
And they added a horizontal piece of track support that went across.
That makes sense.
And then they have those two cables that cross.
I didn't even think about how dangerous that would be if it was just binding essentially.
When it launched, if you stood back by kind of over by Boomerang and you were looking like at a side profile of it.
Oh, we would do that for fun just to watch it sway.
I remember that,
you
watching
see
it sway.
So you see it now, it still sways. Back then, it was really swaying.
That's so scary.
And
I remember doing that for fun, too. So why were you at that test, by the way? Like, because were you, how were you able to be there, I guess, is my question.
Because they were running it with the park open. They were,
okay.
They had the wall like where the games are there and the pathway there.
Yeah.
They just had a wall there. You were really close. Actually, I think at that point the wall was already down when they were testing it.
In the video it looks like
the wall was down there. So they didn't.
I thought it was like some sort of event after hours where you had to have press access or something like that.
After hours with
before
Xcelerator.
YouTube, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if they'd do that in the YouTube era, but
no, well, that's true. Yeah, because they would just be full of people, I would imagine.
It was definitely a cooler time before like we say this as we're doing doing a podcast. It's also going to be on YouTube. Right.
I can't believe you were able to see with your own eyes this thing going 117. Did it honestly look that discernibly different than the 82?
I mean, as you see in the video, it sort of, but not a lot.
It sounded louder.
It was definitely sounded louder, but and you were like, wow, that's really going over the top hat. Like there's going to be a lot of airtime.
Yeah, I was just thinking, because when I was watching the video, I was like really like squinting my eyes to see if I could see any riders on it, and I was like, that would be amazing if they let people ride that, but they would never do that because of the weight, I imagine.
Yeah, I think Sandro Kernax, the Intamin president, I think he was on one of those test ones. Maybe not the 117. I don't recall. This was like half my life ago, but
that's crazy.
It was a long time ago, but I know he was there because I saw him there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. He was also with Maverick. He was the only one that got to ride it with.
I was gonna make a joke. I'm like, it's probably the same guy that did the Heartline roll on Maverick.
It was absolutely the same guy. I think I don't know. Maybe he just builds these things just so he can get on it once, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna dial it back now.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I haven't experienced that at all, so I wasn't able to obviously experience it when it was too much. The Heartline roll.
Well, no one did.
No one did. I thought it was open for a little bit.
No. that was Intimidator 305. Maverick never made it to opening with the Heartline roll. Intimidator 305, they shortly remodeled or reprofiled the turn after the 300-foot drop because too many people were graying out, supposedly.
That sounds awesome.
On that turn. But Maverick, it never opened with the Heartline roll.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Just that guy then.
It's just like legend has it.
Well, I mean, when I was squinting at the footage, it did kind of look like somebody was on one of the trains, but I was like, they would never let anybody on that. It would be so unsafe. And the weight, I would imagine, that's just another vector for something to go wrong. But just the idea of flying over that top hat.
It would increase capacity just a little bit.
Very good. It would.
Maybe when Intamin was giving those numbers, they were like, oh, that's when it goes 117.
Actually, the ride time, I believe, it's in that video.
Mm-hmm.
The video, it's 25.1 seconds normally, but I think when it goes 117, it dropped down to like, I want to say 21 or 20 seconds. Either way, I can't believe you were there. That's amazing. And I already asked you this because I was wondering, has somebody experienced all three launches of King Ka, Top Thrill, and Xcelerator? I was curious which one you thought was the most forceful one. You'd already mentioned Xcelerator.
Oh, Xcelerator for like having the reason of being in the station as well, because it just feels more. Yeah,
that makes me feel better. Yeah. Because I was really sad when King Ka closed because like, well, I'll never know.
Heartbreaking.
But
that was awesome for if you're in the front row, just the pure speed and the wind in your face.
Yeah.
And the height of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Xcelerator has nothing on that.
Yeah.
Well, Xcelerator didn't have the real estate that King Ka or Top Thrill had. So you really have to, because I think the rate of acceleration is still much faster for Xcelerator, even though it's not as fast as those other two, because it takes like about 4 seconds for the other two to get to speed.
Apparently, and this is the next, kind of leads us into the next fun fact here, and I don't know if this is true, and I'm curious if you knew because you were covering the construction. There was a rumor that there was a design out there at one point for this to have a 540 helix. But, where after you go over the top hat, instead of having just the little cruising section, there was supposed to be a helix there. That's what I read, but I was curious since you were plugged in at that time. Is that true?
Gosh, I don't recall that being a rumor back then.
And then probably internet lore.
But I wouldn't dismiss it either, because I remember reading about Top Thrill Dragster, and that was supposed to have an extended layout as well.
Yeah.
And they were going to remove Iron Dragon and do a whole thing there.
Yeah.
And then the park says, "Oh no, we." So, like, I think with any concept, the manufacturer is going to go in and say, "Hey, this is what we want to do. This is what it's going to cost," and then the park's like, "Can we make it less expensive?" And then they kind of dial it back. Like Choice to Colossus at Magic Mountain.
Yeah.
RMC gave them 3 different. Rumor has it is that they gave them 3 different concepts.
Yeah.
And they went with the cheapest one.
It still kicks ass though.
It does, but it was supposed to use like the entire layout and double track and all that stuff. But it would have been, it would have been taller. They wouldn't have cut down the turnarounds. Anyway,
choose the circle.
Anyway, but that would. I mean, if they had added the helix to Xcelerator, I don't think it would really make it that much better of a ride, and it could possibly lower capacity.
It would, definitely would have added runtime, I guess. But
the ride, I mean, maybe if it was a little bit longer and you run 2 trains, it would kind of work itself out, because right now, like you were saying,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter, because by the time the car launches, the train launches, goes over the top hat, and the other one slowly comes around the corner into the station, the other one's already hitting the brakes. So it was really.
Also, I mean, I've never seen a rollback on this ride. I've never experienced a rollback ever in my life. So, have you ever seen a rollback on this? By the way, a rollback, for those who don't know, is when you don't make it over the top hat, when you don't make it over the hill that you're blasting off into on a launch, and you just fall back. The coaster just falls back. Now, I've heard of some rides when you have rollbacks, Velocicoaster being one of them, that they'll just launch you again. But in this one, apparently, in Xcelerator, they have to shut the ride down, and it's like, that doesn't happen.
Huh?
That's what I read, that Xcelerator will not launch you. Like, if it doesn't make it over, they shut it down.
For a year and a half, they closed the ride.
That was the last thing.
And then
a real rollback.
Because, I can't speak for Xcelerator. A, I've never had a rollback. B, I
saw footage of one on YouTube.
But when I've seen footage of people getting rollbacks on Top Thrill Dragster, and they celebrate because
they get a second launch, right?
Second launch, and that happens shortly after.
That's what I would have expected for Xcelerator, but apparently they close it down. So if any of you have experienced a rollback in the comments, let us know if you got the second launch, because it seems like they shut it down for about an hour.
But Xcelerator is different because it launches out of the station. I don't know. Well, I don't know how big of a difference that would make. I don't know why you couldn't just reset it and go, but
I just want to know, in the off chance that I get a rollback, whether I should be celebrating or not, because if I don't get that second launch immediately, I would be kind of pissed off.
Well, if you've been on the ride before, though, you still get the elusive rollback.
Yeah, but it's not as fun if you don't get the second launch.
I don't know.
Look, I'm here. I'm trying to solve this mystery, and there's so many things online, like the Helix thing or this, that it's like it's like we're talking about a ghost here. It's like some say that the rollback was this. It's not a ghost. It's a fucking roller coaster. We should know the answer.
I'm trying to figure out why they would have to do this crazy reset.
It has to probably do something with the station, or somebody's just saying shit. I was hoping one of you knew, but because you guys are the gurus here. But maybe one day I'll catch it, and I'm gonna celebrate, and maybe I'll look like a fool. Last fun fact here: this is according to Coasterpedia, and I did see this also on Wikipedia for what it's worth. This is just a direct quote. The final round of the canceled Cartoon Network game show Brain Rush took place on Xcelerator. In this game show, this is real, the final contestant would have to spit out answers fitting under a certain category, for instance, like American Idol winners, while riding the ride.
All right, Caitlin. Name as many American Idol top 10 finalists from any season as you can.
They would then gain the option to double their money in a final round where they would be asked only one question, and if they answered the question right, the coaster would launch. But if they didn't, they would be forced to get off without getting to ride. And in addition, some contestants would always receive the opportunity to earn extra money by eating some type of filling meal before the ride. I'd never seen this. I've never even heard about this.
I need to look this up.
That sounds awesome.
I have never heard of that at all. But
I'm trying to think of rides that it would be harder to answer quiz questions on than the launch of Xcelerator, and it's tough. That list is short. Like, because there's nothing I'm thinking on Xcelerator during that launch other than, holy shit. That's the only ride that makes me fear physically for my life. Like, I actually think, like, there's a brief moment of panic. It's dumb. I know it's a roller coaster and I'm fine, but there's a moment of panic where I'm like, is this going to end? Kind of thing.
I got my older brother on it for the first time a couple months ago.
Oh, yeah.
And he said the same thing. He was like, I didn't expect the launch just like kept going.
It really feels like forever.
And so for me, I've been on it so many times, I don't really think about it. I love the launch.
Yeah.
But to have fresh eyes on it.
Yeah.
He was watching it launch from, the ground and everything.
You think you can clock it. You can't.
And it's something else. It really is.
Yeah. Just try answering some trivia.
Yeah.
I think I have seen this show before, by the way, online. Is it hosted by the guy from New Girl, the guy that plays Winston?
Do you think you'd do pretty good if I offered you a big old pile of cash just for answering a few questions? Well, think again, son. I don't know.
No, this is old. I think this was like 2004, 2005 from my recollection. It's called Brain Rush.
Brain Rush. Well, they definitely did a show with Knott's Berry Farm where there was trivia questions on roller coasters, and it was hosted with the guy from New Girl.
Knott's is open to this kind of stuff too, because I hosted a show where I interviewed people in haunted houses for Knott's Scary Farm. So I know they're willing to play ball when it comes to like creative trivia game show type shows. So
just imagine them doing that on a Windjammer, though.
That'd be good. And one
just
thing I did,
someone get CTE live.
Honestly, I think there's one good POV I could find online of Windjammer. And it's like one of the funniest moments I've ever seen on a POV because it kind of looks somewhat like underwhelming. You don't hear much reaction from the people riding it. And then there's this one final janky turn into the station. And all you hear is this abrupt, oh! It's super clear.
Incredible.
And I will find it. There's not many POVs out there, but I have to cut it in because it's so damn fun.
It's really good.
That sounds amazing.
You should set that as your text notification. That is our fun facts. Let's move into to armchair engineering. What's one thing you would possibly do to make this attraction even better? We'll go to some of our folks over on our fourth wall at fyapod.com. Ferris Wheel says, that's the name of the user, Ferris Wheel says, engineer the thing that all the enthusiasts want, the rollback. Whether it's random or every 100 rides or some other statistic, intentionally roll back Xcelerator every now and then. Thoughts on that?
So in order to get a rollback, that means the launch has to not be as intense.
It's like a half chub launch. Yes.
Yeah. There's other coasters that you can roll back on.
What about the Top Thrill 2 version, like the swing launch?
Now, what is that?
Basically where it launches you a certain portion up and then you go backwards and it kicks another launch in which you traverse a backwards spike and then you come down and then you hit the top speed and then you go all the way over.
I mean, that was great for a week while it was running. And then
it turns out those trains just aren't ready to handle it.
Zamperla is like, I mean, they just went from like building like these like little fair rides to like,
yeah, that's a big promotion.
A swing launch would be okay, but Xcelerator is more or less a one-trick pony.
Yes.
And it's about the launch.
Yes.
And by doing a swing launch, you're lessening the intensity of that launch.
I will say, though, the rollback, if I could get 1.5 launches, I'll take that every time as opposed to just one launch because that line is long for what it is, usually, unless you're like rope dropping it or something like that.
They can have like a button that everybody pushes. Like,
rollback.
Do you want to roll back or not?
Yeah, I mean, if it was randomized, if they programmed it, I could get it behind this. Steve R says, Steve R says, launch me on Accelerator going backwards. I know Six Flags has done this in the past with some of its rides, so not sure how much work would need to be done. But it would be a cool limited time event. Honestly, pretty inspired stuff right there. That would be.
You would need like a mouth guard or something like that.
Yeah, you would knock your teeth out, right? Yeah, there's no way.
What's actually fun, I think the original Colossus at Magic Mountain, they used to run backwards on Halloween.
They run it backwards on Halloween.
Yeah, with the cyclone trains.
That's freaking wild. And it's a wooden coaster. I don't know how you handle that.
You would legitimately hurt yourself.
And they also did
mouthpiece.
They did Cyclone backwards at one point too. Batman was backwards at one point.
I remember that.
Yeah, most people remember Batman. A good example is Superman, like at Magic Mountain, where they turn that around.
Yeah.
And when there were rumors of them doing that, I was saying, well, there's no way they can do that. It's lap bars. You're going to launch, and then you're going to
whack your head, right?
You're going to go forward. Well, then they put the over-the-shoulder restraints on. So the only way that could happen on Xcelerator is if they put over-the-shoulder restraints, and that would ruin the ride. So
unless they just made it special for that one. Knott's would ever do that. But if they made a special train just for this event, I'd go. If it was like 1 week, we're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would. I'm not saying I would be against riding Xcelerator.
I'll go. Yeah. And then the last one we have here is Jacob Heron says, now this is actually pretty cool. And maybe unlike the other two, this is, I feel like, pretty possible. Put the station and launch track of Xcelerator inside a show building of some sort and give it some sort of narrative with sick lighting and some music. I don't know about the show building will ever happen, but I do think it could use a cool lighting package because Hang Time has a sick lighting package.
After Hang Time went in, every other coaster just looks like shit.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Ghost Rider looks awesome.
Well, Ghost Rider, yes. But if they put some sort of lighting package on this, if they covered the launch and tunneled it, that would be interesting. Would that take away from what you were saying, though, of having context for the items around you and would make the launch feel slower?
I mean, the context is when you're in the station.
Yeah.
But I also... It adds kinetic energy to the whole area.
That's true.
When you're able to see the launch,
that's a fair point.
And the whole 50s theme to the boardwalk.
You would still get that with the top hat, though.
You would when it launches out. The original concept art for the station made it look like it was going to be like enclosed with like glass, and that didn't happen.
Oh, interesting. Why glass?
You know, like the old diners.
Yeah. Oh, right? Okay. I thought it was purely for noise pollution.
No, it was supposed to, like, because I thought it was going to be like this indoor station with like all this like big sheet of glass, and then that didn't happen.
As the two resident enthusiasts here, is there anything you would do to change this ride to make it better? I'm not saying it needs something to be changed, but if there was one thing you would tweak.
I have a couple thoughts.
I'm very curious.
Go for it.
So instead of having the station or queue indoors or enclosed in any way, maybe make it look more like a drive-in movie theater. Hopefully don't have it block too much stuff. But at least you could like put something on on a screen or whatever that's like makes the queue more entertaining. I don't know if that's an indication for a later test. In regards to the coaster itself, gosh, if there's any way to just get an extra block section in here, and this is an outlandish pitch that will never happen, but I think they should demo Coast Rider and then create an L-shaped layout where it continues on that back rim of the park where Coast Rider is, and then you could send it back with an Immelman or a dive loop or something. Not plausible, but I think it would kick ass.
I'm on board as long as you're demoing Coast Rider.
Perfect. We did it.
You could put a trash can there. It doesn't matter. Just to know.
I think it's a big waste of space over there. I think you could get more layout. You still can keep the top hat, just have it send it out in that direction. Something more realistic, if there's any way to feature an unload station. Once again, I know they're kind of running out of real estate. I don't know if you'd have to incorporate unloading.
Well, that would allow them to use
after
the two
break
trains,
section.
Yeah.
And then in between that final break run and the station, you could have the two-sided locker system. You throw your stuff in the locker, and when you come out that unload station, now you're facing the back side of the locker, and you could pull your stuff and go. I don't know, anything to get...
I think just lockers, that two-sided locker system in general would be...
Just anything to make this a two-train operation would be huge, because the capacity in a park that has so many coasters that feel like they just want to run one train, they got to do something. It's just...
Yeah, because even like what you described, it feels like it would be impossible. Like in terms of cost, right? Like,
oh, like the new layout?
No, not the new layout, but even adding like an unload station would... probably cost a fortune, I would imagine.
I guess it's not worth. That's the thing is like I honestly think at this point they just intentionally want to run less trains so that they have less maintenance or upkeep.
Well, what I read is that it plays in their favor because then once they're running one train, they can run maintenance on the other and then swap them out.
And
there's not really a lot of incentive to do that. It would actually end up probably costing them more.
You don't want to sell less fast lanes either.
But what's crazy is the ride was down for like we said like a year and a half.
Yeah.
It was like a year and a half. They could have refurbished both trains and had them up, and the other one is just still like in pieces.
Yeah,
because like when you go on the final breaks there, where the where the maintenance area is there.
Yeah,
it's just still sitting there. Kind of going back to what you're saying, like I think that if it had a helix, if the banking on those turns were like you actually kind of were more overbanked, would be great.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, kind of. I think just more of an overbank on there.
Yeah,
would be pretty awesome. So you almost get like kind of inverted.
Be kind of cool. I mean,
Chris, have you ever ridden Fahrenheit at Hershey Park by any chance?
Yes.
I feel I don't know why. I know it's an Intamin as well. It's a very funky layout for an Intamin. Could make a decent part 2 for a ride like this that eventually loses some steam to have an interesting second half of a layout. It'd be
I
very
like
different.
the second half though, the cruising nature of it.
You can still keep that.
I absolutely hated Fahrenheit. I hated Fahrenheit. Oh, now maybe it's tiny bit better because it got the new restraints. I went on it in its first year when it had the over the shoulder restraints with the little thin bar.
Oh,
and the head neck banging on that is criminal.
I can't say. I don't think I went on it a year ago.
Because they have like the more padded like over the shoulder restraints now. Mm-hmm. The original ones, just like the original ones that were on Maverick.
Yeah.
Intamin made the worst over the shoulder restraints of any company. And I'm so thankful that with like
Velocicoaster, they're incredible.
With Velocicoaster, with Fast and Furious, I'm sure it's going to have just lap bars. That's the way to go.
Velocicoaster is probably the most comfortable restraints I've ever been in. Honestly, I love that.
Oh, that's awesome. I have not been on it, but I need to get my butt out there.
I fucking love that ride. The way that ride feels, and it doesn't kill the ride either. Moving on to the good and the bad. And look, this is a roller coaster. There's not too much to talk about here. So I have a couple goods here that we want to talk about. We've talked about them a little bit. The anticipation and anxiety that builds with this ride. Really fantastic stuff. Seeing it launch from the station gives you a unique perspective that you don't typically get on these launch coasters. The launch. Look, it is a one-trick pony. We'll get to that later. It's the best launch I've ever experienced. And I say that having never been on King to Ka, and I've never been on Top Thrill. But, whatever. It's incredible. I've never seen or felt anything like it.
Also, like when you're in the queue for Xcelerator, like that is you're completely in the middle of the ride there.
Yeah,
and I'm never in that extended queue ever.
Yeah,
but I just imagine never being on Xcelerator, and you're in there for like an hour, 2 hours, however long the line is.
Yes,
and you're just watching that constantly just go up over the top hat.
What happens is, because I have been in that extended queue, and what happens is it's pretty miserable until you get to the station, and all of the misery compounds in a way where it's like that energy converts into anxiety, because now all this time you've been waiting, you're so close to the launch, you could see it, and you could even feel it, and that kind of converts into fear. At least for me, that's how it worked for me, because it was like, oh, am I ever going to get on this thing? And it's like, oh shit, I'm about to get on this thing. Yeah. So it kind of works. I don't love waiting in that long line, but normally when I get on it, it's usually when it's almost, at the station. Even that's like 20 minutes.
The last time I rode it while I was waiting in line, like making my way up that final ramp.
Yeah.
I saw a train launch over the top hat, and you just see a cell phone like flying 50 feet. It was like clearly a cell phone that just looked like it flew off the property.
Oh, damn.
And I'm like, man, if I had never been on that ride and I saw that cell phone flying, I'd be like, wow, that's anticipation for this ride.
No, I mean, shit. Can you imagine driving Because what is that, beach? That's not beach.
I don't think it would have hit a street. They had
Yeah, what's that street right there? That's
it's
perpendicular.
Western, and I'm so blanking right now.
Just
but,
imagining driving and having an iPhone wedged into your dash.
I think
crazy.
it was out like because they have like a barn or like backstage kind of
Yeah,
area. It
yeah.
looked like it flew. It didn't look like it was going to make the street, but it was still like it was still just floating up.
The top hat is the next thing I wrote. The ejector airtime on the back of that. The only other ride where I've experienced more intense ejector airtime is Velocicoaster, off that second launch when you go straight up the hill. That's the only ride that I felt more like I was gonna die than this ride. And that's my favorite type of airtime is the ejector. Floaty is fun for me, but I like feeling like I'm gonna get, launched out of that thing.
and those lap bars going back to restraints are some of the best.
Yes,
And it's similar like Velocicoaster where your subconscious isn't on the same page as like your common logic. So even though you're saying, hey, like it's physically impossible for my legs to fly out of this right now, your subconscious thinks, oh, we're getting ejected here.
that's the best. I like that. I like the fear of God,
Which
being
you
put
don't
into
get
the-
with you obviously don't get with the over the shoulder restraint.
The fear of almost becoming that cell phone.
Yes.
I will say, the Accelerator ones hurt a little bit more when you're going over than Velocicoaster, which maybe that's why I'm able to like internally enjoy the Velocicoaster one a little bit more. But maybe the Accelerator one is just a little scarier, and that's why I don't enjoy it as much.
Well, the Accelerator does have a seat belt, as I recall. Yeah, there's a seat belt underneath the lap bar.
Thank you, Cedar Fair.
That ejector airtime is incredible. And also, I mean, I like the cruising at the end. I know people probably have that as a bad.
The what?
The nice little cruising after the top hat. I just like that it's kind of like a leisurely just kind of cruise. I like it as a cool down. I don't know.
I don't understand people that they could have done so much more. Like, just be thankful that it doesn't go directly into the brakes.
Yeah.
Because that happened with Top Thrill, that happened with King to Cot. Well, Storm Runner, you have to have the over the shoulder restraints because of all the inversions. So I think Xcelerator was just the perfect coaster for the Xcelerator coasters. And it's funny with it being the first.
But I love cruising at the end because it's a lot. The launch and the top hat is a lot. And so to kind of just still have speed and just cruise to the finish, I really enjoy that part of the ride, honestly. So
It's great. The wind's blowing in your face.
yeah, I like it. You get a nice view.
Yeah, like you've overcome the most. Like I remember the first time I rode this, getting past the fear of that top hat and that big drop, just getting those two big, it feels like a big victory lap, and you're just, I don't know, you're just taking it all in. And
It's kind of the antithesis of Velocicoaster, because after the top hat and Velocicoaster, it actually increases in intensity. Whereas this, it's like, okay, it's over.
No, like I'm just cruising, having fun now. I equate it to just like a scenic, like, high speed boat ride during sunset. Oddly enough,
it's really nice. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Especially in the front row. We're talking about how good the back row is for the airtime. But then being in the front,
I like the air. Yeah, the air in your face.
It increases the sensation of speed.
Yeah,
and then you get that kind of weird like pause if you're in the front row.
Yeah,
when you go over, so it's a totally different experience. So,
do you prefer the front to the back then? Hands down?
I prefer the airtime in the back. Yeah, but being in the front is awesome in its own ways.
It's almost like asking, do you like the launch portion or the top hat portion better, I suppose, in a sense, because that launch in the front is absolutely absurd.
Yeah, it's
so
good. It's so good.
And then that's all I had in terms of goods, because it's a short ride, unless there's any other parts in specific to highlight, because there's not a lot of elements in this bad boy. It's pretty.
I mean, you already talked about it with the anticipation. Like the lights are so cool. I just gotta piggyback on that. I love how it
could be cooler.
It's a countdown of sorts. I'm sure you're gonna cover that in your bads, but
yeah.
I think it's really neat.
No, I'm talking about the package. There's like not really a package. I thought you were talking about the green lights at the station.
The countdown lights.
I like those.
Yeah.
That's super cool to watch in the station. It builds anticipation when you're on the ride. You can never time it like perfectly.
Yeah,
like when it actually hits the light and like when you hit.
Well, the operators will sometimes do this thing where they'll be like, "All right, see you in 3, 2," and they'll launch you on 2. Love that.
That's always fun. I
always a
mean,
blast.
the sound, I got to say, if there's like one big thing I miss that I'm going to miss from all these hydraulic coasters going away is that iconic launch sound.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
And when you say they're going to go away, is that because of the safety?
I think it's not really safety as much as it is, I think, reliability.
I see.
There's just so much downtime that seems to be in correlation with these launch coasters.
Yeah, and with the advance in technology with LSMs that existed obviously prior to that, but I think they've gotten so much stronger that they can, like with Red Force.
Yeah, they could create, maybe it's not as punchy, but they could still get it to speed and make it somewhat comparable.
Yeah.
Right?
We were just talking about that. That is the
it's-
tallest drop now, right?
What's this?
Red Force?
Yeah, I guess it was Superman
Because it doesn't go all the... Yeah.
being down and yeah.
Didn't Superman just make, did you say that Superman made a post about it or something that it's now the tallest?
They said it's now the tallest, but that would be as if it went all the way up.
Oh, gotcha. Like,
It's still, I mean, it's still technically you're counting by the height of the structure.
The structure, but I'm talking about like the actual distance you travel.
The travel, and it's always hard to tell with that. So Red Force, I guess.
or at least for full circuit Red Force.
I was just curious.
Yeah, man.
We're living in a post King to Car world, so I was just kind of curious. Anyways, yeah, that's all I have for my good. Did you have anything else, Byron?
Just one of those tiny details. It is, once again, the station launch, super cool. The fact that it moves a little bit backwards to catch the
cable car thing?
Yeah, it's the dang, what is the word I'm looking for? The it's essentially because the hydraulics are actually at the end of the launch.
Yeah.
And they're basically hooked up to this winch that's connected to a cable, and that rapidly spins and pulls. So it's like this catch car that has a latch that connects to the train. So it has to back up so like the tooth of that latch could lock in. So you'll hear it engage when it backs up. You'll hear that loud click.
Yeah.
It lets the coaster launch in one direction, and then it lets it go. So the coaster will keep going while the catch car will stop. But anyways, just that engagement, hearing that click, once it's all anticipation building for this ride, and we're not going to get these anymore. So
Sadly.
enjoy them while they're here.
Other things I think that are good about it. Like I said earlier with how you're in the station.
Yeah.
And it's also the people in the station. So you have this energy of everybody watching you. You have the people on the train, and you have the people that are watching the people on the train, and you have just this energy before you launch. And then also, and not having an unload station, you go back into the station, and people on the train are applauding, and people in the station are applauding, and it creates this whole incredible vibe.
When you normally get on a ride, person gets on, you're just like, all right, I'm up next. That's all you're thinking. In this ride, you now have a front row seat to that person's reaction. Because normally I don't care about that person. They leave the station. It's like, okay, I can't wait for it to come back so I could get on. But in this particular case, because they launched from the station.
You get to watch all the all the various things that people do.
This person that you've been observing for maybe an hour, standing in line, doing mundane things, talking to their friends, you now get to watch be terrified and scream as like their life is ending. And then like you said, when they come back, you get to watch the reaction of like normally their hair's all fucked up. And you're just like, damn, that's gonna be me in a second. And
I don't have that problem.
That's probably why, right? That's purposeful.
I lost it all on Accelerator. Screw you, Knott.
It's in Buena Park.
You did ride the 117 mile an hour.
I did. That's what this
that was you in the video.
The one exception in terms of observing the people in front of you, Ryan, was when we saw Tony Hawk was on the train.
I wasn't there. I was doing my event.
Oh, crap.
You guys were all there because I was doing my speaking event. Yeah.
Tony Hawk obviously just looks so unfazed.
Of course.
Just expressionless as he launches off, comes back, just same facial expression. But
this guy's throwing down like 720s on a skateboard.
Yeah.
So
I don't have a celebrity that I can really think of that I've seen on a ride. That's
probably David Blaine. I saw him on Hot Ones. He didn't seem phased. No.
What?
I feel like that guy's.
I got Fred Durst on Deja Vu at Magic Mountain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And he was just like whatever.
I think so. I don't know.
All right, let's move on to some bads here.
Uh-oh.
Oh, unless you have I don't have.
The other good would just be that last overbank.
Okay.
How you have kind of a little bit of a head chopper. You're going back.
Yeah.
You're going back through the structure of
that's
the
true.
top hat.
I'm just exhaling there.
Yeah.
Just like It's weird to say you're just so relaxed on a roller coaster, but you really are relaxed in that the wind is just perfect.
Yeah.
I don't hardly have that many bads here. One bad, and this isn't fair, but you have to say, I mean, it's a short ride. For ratio standing in line to ride time, it's got to be up there in terms of the worst. Like, you know, there's not going to be many rides that are shorter than this.
Montezuma's Revenge.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And it's close.
Well, but at least with that, you go forwards, you go backwards. It does the whole
Well,
thing.
who knows? Maybe you might go backwards then forwards now.
Oh, yeah.
At the new launch system, if it happens. And then the last one I have here is, this is even a bad, I don't even know why I wrote this. They should have a let's go 100 miles per hour day. And then I put LOL, probably not safe though. I would stand in line for hours if they were like, today and just today, every launch is going to go over 100 miles an hour. Have fun.
Would they do that just to fuck with Magic Mountain? Be like, well, we got a coaster that goes 100 miles an hour launch.
Because it can.
No, but like,
Yeah, just to mess with, yeah.
no, like it actually, that is actually kind of interesting how they got it up to 117, right?
Yeah.
And then you got Superman, which can like, supposed to hit 100.
Supposed to.
And it
No way.
rarely did.
What does it hit, like 93, 92 now?
Something, yeah.
Maybe it just doesn't seem safe. It probably puts stress in the structure. I know. Be fun if they had a let's go 100 miles per hour day. Just one day.
And the last day.
Yeah, just it would be the first and last day of the coaster. Maybe, just the last day of the coaster. Like, today, the ride's closing forever. We're going to go 100 miles per hour. I'd wait a long time for that. I don't think I'd even be able to tell the difference between 82 and 100, to be honest.
Well, I heard they were doing
I think
that
you
with...
tell the difference at the top.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. At the top hat is where you tell the difference.
I heard they were doing that with King Ka.
Really?
Not purposely. They were just, but they were running it in like boost mode or whatever they call that.
Oh, is it kind of because what El Toro Ryan put out a video supposedly that
it never went 128. Is that the one you're talking
the
about?
128 was when the cars are empty because there's less inertia.
Anyways, that's my last bad. I mean, is there any other, do you guys have any nitpicks for this, or should we just move to the end of this for the world-class tests?
I mean, just operations, but that's not very fun.
Operations, capacity's awful. Reliability, it's just way too much downtime.
It's like sometimes with some of the greatest things are not the ones that, are with us, forever.
They also say the greatest ability is availability in the world of sports. So, that there's that too. Anyways, let's move on to the world-class test. This is a rubric of 10 tests painstakingly devised by Byron and myself to determine if an attraction is world-class. To receive the highly coveted world-class pass, the attraction must pass 7 out of 10 tests. A score of 6 out of 10 leaves the attraction up for debate for world-class pass standing, and anything lower than 6 out of 10 is an automatic fail. I'm interested to see how this one goes.
Oh, gosh.
Because
oh, no.
It is a coaster, so it's already at a disadvantage. I will say that. And it's a specialty coaster, so we'll see. But let's start with the first test. Oh, God. The average tourist test. Would the average tourist have a hard time getting on this ride? Is there a long wait? Is there a complicated queue system?
I'm torn here because
there's not a complicated queue system.
It's not a complicated queue system.
You're overestimating the intelligence of some of these people.
It's gonna be.
I mean, they put the station in a spot with a sign that makes it look like the entrance is over there, but the entrance is all the way at the far end.
That's right. The entrance is at the top.
So it's slightly complicated.
That is true.
But I'll say no. It's pretty straightforward.
It's a straightforward queue system.
The big question is if it's operating. If it's operating.
That's where I'm in at.
The capacity is not too great, so it does get, I don't know, it's usually has a long line. Although I didn't, I forgot to ask you guys, what do you think the all-time, I guess this is an appropriate time. According to ThrillData.com, what would you think the average wait time is for this ride?
Ooh, I'm going to go 60.
I'll say 100.
100, wow.
ThrillData.com has it at 45 minutes.
Really?
Even that's high for a lot of the attractions we cover.
Because that's the thing, it's like weekdays.
Downtime, yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, okay, that is true. If you go there...
But you go on a weekend, like it is going to be an hour guaranteed or more.
Which is crazy that it's 45. That means it really gets up there because I often see it,
I mean, it's a 2-hour wait, but you are right. If you go there during the week... It's like you have to plot this out. But no, if you go there during the week, first thing you go back there because everybody's going to Ghost Rider.
Yes, that's true.
You head straight to the back of the park, get on it, and you could get on numerous amount of times, and then go check out everything else.
But with the average tourist, it's kind of a luck of the draw, right?
Yeah.
What days the average tourist happen to be there? The average tourist has no control of the reliability. Like, it could be a very easy ride to get on, and you could get on it again and again and again, or the coaster gods could just be like, you shall not pass. And
read the question one more time.
Would the average tourist have a hard time getting on this ride? Is there a long wait? Is there a complicated queue system?
Well, I guess based off your numbers there, it's not a long wait because 45 minutes on average is not terrible.
Yeah, it's counting the days when it's like...
And it's not a complicated queue system.
Oh, yeah, the reason, just so as a little backstory, that we created this test, which is ironic because we passed this ride for this test, which is embarrassing. But we created this test for Rise of the Resistance, which at the time you had to literally win the lottery, like a digital lottery, to get on in, to have the ability to stand in line. And that was ridiculous. So in that sense, anybody could get on this line if it's a pay to play. If you were willing to wait the 60 or the 10 or the 15 or the 2 hours, you will get on this ride.
It's literally the first coaster that you see when approaching Knott's Berry Farm.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's definitely on your radar if you want to ride a roller coaster. Reliability
is what's giving me pause.
But I still think it just gets over the hump for me.
There it is.
Yeah, I'll
gets over the top hat.
No rollback here.
No rollback.
All right, that's one for one.
Yeah.
Moving on to test number 2. The Leslie Stahl test. Would you be willing to wait 60 minutes for this attraction if you've already been on it at least once? Or if everything in the park was 60, would this be one of the ones you would wait for?
Which one of the best rides in the park?
There are 2 rides I would wait 60 minutes for.
This is one
at
too.
Knott's. It's Ghost Rider and it's Accelerator.
Yeah, those are the 2 I would
And
wait for
I
as
know
well.
because I have waited an hour for this
I have
after
too.
riding it numerous times in the
Well,
past.
because the launch is unlike anything you can get on this coast and, well, anywhere maybe. So
I've waited almost an entire day. When I was there in November, I heard it was going to reopen. I heard those rumors that it was going to reopen that day, and I went there and I waited until starting to get dark. I almost felt like.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I was there for like.
Do you recall what the
5,
posted
6,
wait time was?
Well, no, because it was it.
Oh, it was like a rumored soft opening. Okay,
yeah, it
I
was a
see.
rumored soft opening. So I just went there and said, yeah, it's going to open today. And so I wore this shirt and I was like, it's my good luck shirt. It's going to open. And as I was actually, funny story, as I was standing outside the station, like in the public area, just waiting and trying to talk to people, I had so many people come up to me and I say, they thought I worked. It says Knott's. It says Knott's on here.
It tripped me out when you came in. I'm like, did like an employee give that to you? Did they used to have those? Like, it looks a little different.
Yeah, so people kept asking me questions, so I had to like go away. I was like, stop bugging me.
That makes. It makes sense.
I'm trying to vlog. And,
yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. If you're going there for a roller coaster,
yeah. I mean, and most people are. So that's a pass for me. I mean, I think it's worth the 60. So 2 for 2. Moving on.
661.
I think it's worth it.
I would wait.
I'd wait 60. I wouldn't wait more than 60, but I'll wait. I'm not going to be happy about the 60. Let's put it that way. But I will do it. I'll do it. Test number 3, the smartphone test. Does the queue of this ride have enough to keep you off of your phone? No. Not even close.
No.
Not even a little bit, honestly. Like, unless you are in the station, there is nothing to look at in this ride. Once you see it pass over like once or twice, you're like,
well, see, I'd be on my phone recording it.
Yeah.
Does that count?
Not typically, but I would say most people are like, I see people all the time in this ride playing like Heads Up or something on their phone or something like that.
The most entertaining thing I've ever seen in this queue was a phone flying out of someone's hand on the top hat. And I don't think I hope that never happens again. But so yes, I would have to fail this one.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty clear fail. All right, moving on, 2 for 3. Test number 4, the Tony Stark test. This is going to be interesting. How innovative is this attraction? Does it push theme park tech forward?
Absolutely.
Yep, it's an easy pass.
Is it?
Yes. Simply put, Top Thrill Dragster opens a couple years later because of the success of Xcelerator, proving that the hydraulic launch system works. And as you mentioned, Chris, to the point where they even tested the higher speeds on this launch during testing to ensure that they could do it on larger scale versions of what, because this at the time was a prototype. So it definitely took theme park tech forward, even though Top Thrill and King Ka are gone as we know it. Top Thrill changing to a magnetic launch. I think it's still important to note that even if hydraulic coasters phase out, I think LSMs had to step up their game.
Yeah.
They had to make LSMs
Yeah.
more powerful because they needed to create something comparable to what a hydraulic launch can do. So I think it's a definite pass.
Speaking of the test to push this to 117 and it goes 82, I'm kind of surprised at the paddles there at the end of that was how much wiggle room they had. It makes me wonder if King Ka or Top Thrill had similar paddles. Like, could they push it to 150?
Could they? I'm sure they could.
Because they had so much more like launch, runway.
You get what I'm saying, right? Because like if this had that capability, if they push that system, I wonder.
Yeah, because I mean the motor on those are a lot larger and
that would be
everything.
crazy,
you could,
right?
You could totally.
Because they could allow it to take more time to get to that speed.
I wonder if King Ka, when it closed, they had some off the books drag race. Just like they're like, let's see if we could get this bad boy to 150. Like just like after hours. No one's around. No one needs to know.
But yeah,
They're gonna dismantle this thing eventually. Let's just go for it. And if you're listening to this, maybe you still have that opportunity. Like you could push that thing to 150.
There's just like a crew of operators that keeps getting busted, like head of Cedar Fair, like runs in there middle of the night with a flashlight. What are you guys doing here again? Nothing. Flashes the light up at the top hat.
It's just that same guy from Intamin. He's just strapped in there. He's like, I've been waiting for this day. This is what we played for.
Righteous.
oh my god.
So this is a pass. 3 for 4. Moving forward. Okay, this is going to be a fail. Test number 5, the Hollywood test. Can this attraction be adapted for the silver screen? Does it have a comprehensible story? No.
It's Grease, dude.
Nah, man.
Grease lightning.
I know that they say that on the site, though. They say it takes you back to the time of the greasers. It's
really?
the same
Yeah.
site that mentions, what was it again? Something about white knuckle.
This is there is really zero story. There's very light hot rod style theming. I will note, I don't know if we even touched it on this in the good. This is a good. I think the trains look fucking sick.
Oh, those are one of the nicest looking trains.
I didn't have that as a bullet. Trains look fucking sick.
Fucking sick. Those fucking sick trains.
They're definitely the coolest looking. I mean, like the dragster trains look kind of neat as well, but I gotta say, like these are the coolest trains I think I've seen.
57 Chevys.
And I have to say, I have to give Knott props for maintaining, because it has like that little metal fleck in there to like give it that shine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That after like the first couple of years, they didn't just spray paint it like some just.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like they've kept those things looking really nice.
Yeah. And it's easier to do that when you only operate one a day.
Well, that's why they have them in rotation, you know?
Yeah.
That's a fail. Moving on. That's 3 for 5.
Just wait. Like tomorrow, they're going to drop like Accelerator, the movie.
Never going to happen. Test number 6. Now, this is actually going to be very interesting. The Simpson test. How likely is this to be replaced with something new, a la Back to the Future with The Simpsons?
I think it will.
It's going to be replaced, I think. I'm a betting man. There, just based off of what you guys are saying alone about the launch system and the reliability, it's a couple major breakdowns away from. Then again, you see the response to King Ka closing. I wonder.
I always ask people, I said, what are you going to put in that spot?
Footprint wise, right?
Yeah, because they're not going to be going, there's not much room around it other than you move Coast Rider. But that's just, you got to hop over.
Fahrenheit, Chris.
No.
Fahrenheit. Great use of space. Hey, they did with hang time. They basically took out a boomerang and put hang time there.
They did, and that was a major upgrade. And they also had to take out, there was a gift shop there. They took out one of the flat rides.
Oh, Hammerhead?
It was originally Hammerhead, and then it became, I'm forgetting what it is.
I forget. I never did it.
Is it safe to assume that if they were to remove this, given the footprint that it occupies, there really isn't a lot of off-the-shelf products they could put there?
There really isn't. I don't know that.
It would have to be custom, I imagine.
Well, yeah, I mean...
and I don't know if they have the cash to do that, is like what I'm getting at.
Well, this merger, they got mad money now.
I don't think so. I don't think so. That guy's dancing to the bank. I don't think he's going anywhere else. He's keeping it for himself.
They could. It's just, I don't know what they would put in there that isn't a launch coaster.
And this is you talking with your mind, not your heart, right?
No, this is with my mind. Like, totally. But no, what would you put in there that would fit? There would have to be a launch coaster again. Knotts. I mean, that's all they have.
I mean, the only thing I could think of is like that has a similar footprint is a ride that's not even a roller coaster. It's a perilous plunge, what they used to have. Remember that ride?
Yeah.
It's the same footprint, essentially.
That was another Intamin creation that,
had its issues.
Had issues.
If I'm thinking from just a creative standpoint, I would say they probably are going to replace this. But if logistically it actually wouldn't make sense, because like for instance, we covered Mr. Toad, obviously a very different ride. It's a fucking pretzel dark ride.
Yeah.
But the footprint is so small, and it is literally under the space of Alice in Wonderland that they can't replace it. So like logistically, they can't get rid of it. If this is a case of that,
okay, yeah,
I wonder.
Bring back Windjammer.
All right, Togo, hear us out.
The only thing Togo's making right now is sandwiches, and they ain't gonna be making coasters anymore. I'll tell you that.
Look, I honestly feel like this has got about 10 years left at most.
I would say 5 to 10. That's fair.
I think it's, they got the piece they needed. They're like, hey, like this is for, return on investment purposes. Like this is our last push. We gave it the repaint. We got that, that piece for the hydraulic launch. We're going to let it do its thing. And I think it's one incident away. Its brother and sister coasters have also had plenty of incidents. It's one incident away from closing down permanently. And I think at the very best, it's got like 10 to 15 years tops, and it will be replaced.
I agree.
I would like to be optimistic. I hope they take Coast Rider with it. I hope
brings it down with it.
I hope they're able
Coast
to.
Rider to hell.
I hope they're able to create something maybe with an L-shaped layout. I don't know if they have the amount of space for, say, a lift hill. To do, some sort of hyper. I don't think you could do a general like drop. You'd have to do like a twisted drop that works its way to the back, that back rim of the park.
Yeah.
But either way, I think you could remove Coast Rider and some of that surrounding area. You have enough real estate to creatively make a legitimate coaster that has an extra block section or two. Ideally, a B&M would be cool because capacity is amazing with that. I don't know if after the merger, what their cash flow is looking like, what manufacturers they want to work with, but it is being replaced. And I just hope it's for the best. I hope they get a good, reliable coaster that runs multiple trains when they do so.
If they take this out, but take Coast Rider with it, do you see that as a net positive?
I think
it's a genuine question.
Anything that removes Coast Rider.
If they build a thrilling coaster that can reliably handle people and improve the capacity at the park, I think it's a win. As much as I love Xcelerator, anything comparable to your standard Mako, Candemonium, like that kind of coaster is what Knott's, I think, is missing in terms of like thrill levels.
Because there will be when this gets removed, there is going to be an outcry similar to what we're seeing.
And it's also important to note that if Montezuma ever comes back, you've got a couple launch coasters already.
Yeah,
a couple launch coasters that run with one train, and I think they will use that real estate ideally creatively to. I mean, this is maybe optimistic.
Are you going Giga? Is that what you're...
I don't think Giga.
I think space for
I would like to. I think they'd have a shot at a hyper. I'd love to see it.
That entire plot would be lift hill to go. I mean, you have to like.
That's what we're like. Like you'd have to.
You're like, well, we got the lift hill.
You'd have to like. I guess a good comparison.
It's like when you're building a roller coaster tycoon. You're out of the area.
Yeah.
Like, shit.
DC Rivals in Australia.
Oh, where it does the twisted drop.
It does the twisted drop. It is like my first thought of like doing something like that.
Get mock rides in there. Yeah.
They do that trick with water slides too.
So yeah, I think the lift hill would basically take you to the back border of the park, and then you'd have to do the twisted drop and then L-shape it back. But
that's possible. Another thought that just popped into my head that I've never really thought about before is if they did an indoor coaster there. That's that plot of land there. You got that kind of rectangle size there.
That'd be significantly more expensive, though, I imagine, right?
They got money, baby.
I don't know where you're getting this. I don't think they do, Chris. I think that's why Montezuma is a makeshift McDonald's right now. I think that's where the money.
All right, laugh track 2. Let's make it happen.
They're using that money to fund root beer purchases. That's but this ride it's not long for this earth. I'll tell you that. If that's 10 years, sure, it's I'm guareeing it. It's going to be replaced. But
So what's the parameters for that question though? As far as
there are so for instance, there are certain rides that are almost synonymous with the culture of a park. For instance, Disneyland is never going to have Pirates of the Caribbean taken out. There's certain investment in certain rides, either like nostalgically or like financially, that like indicate this thing ain't going nowhere.
Ghost Rider is the example at Knott's Berry
Exactly.
Farm.
Yes. Not Farm. That will never go anywhere.
Because people were saying, oh, they should have RMC'd it, and they said, no, we're going to keep it.
I would have.
You wanted that?
No, I did not. No,
okay, good.
I would have lost
Yeah.
my mind.
Yeah.
My favorite wooden roller coaster in the world. I would. Oh man, that would have.
I had a coaster enthusiast on my train once, and like he got off and he was telling me like, "Oh, I wish they would have RMC'd it though. It's still good, but I would like."
You should have thrown him off the train.
Nah, dude.
You should have thrown him screaming off the train.
We got plenty of awesome RMCs.
You should have shown him that video of the phone going off Xcelerator and be like, "That's gonna be you."
Keep talking.
And that was during a time when RMCs were getting very popular too. That would have made a lot of sense considering Cedar Fair was giving the Iron Horse treatment to so many other coasters across the country. And that's what they think of Ghost Rider.
Well, I was fine when they did it to Colossus because I thought Colossus was a shitty ride, TBH. But that might be a hot take. But
Colossus had its time.
It had its time, but it's not Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider,
Ghost Rider is an elite. Cedar Fair, I guess I'd be Six Flags now, but Cedar Fair kind of seems like they kind of let Knott's do their thing.
Yeah.
More I think that was part of the deal,
more
right?
than they let the other parks. With that, I think that would be the only thing that might save Accelerator or give it a longer life. But hey, with that said, it's been there. It was been there longer than the rides that were there prior.
Good run.
One more incident. That's
yeah.
I don't want to I'm not trying to be like morbid or anything, but it could just be a malfunction. Something as simple as a malfunction or needing another piece.
22 years is a great run.
Like a 100-mile-per-hour day.
Like 100-mile-per-hour day.
Look, I did right after LOL might not be safe though. That's to be fair, I wrote that. What if they had like a lottery for just it to run 100 miles per hour for one train? Just one train. Like that's the train that gets it.
And what, you like win a golden ticket like you're at Willy Wonka's chocolate factory?
Exactly.
No, it's one and you don't know which one it's going to be.
That's cruel. That is you don't know which. Yeah, but once it goes, then everyone's like, all right, that was it. Then I'm going to get out of line now. But I guess that's the point. Anyways, all that to say, this fails the Simpson test. We got a little out of control.
Okay.
3 for 6. Test number 7, the signature moment test. I think I know how this is going to go. Can this ride hold its own without its signature moment? Is it a one-trick pony? Chris.
It is a 2-trick pony.
No, it's not, Chris.
It has
you are on record in this podcast saying it's a one-trick pony.
I know, because I remember when Chris said that, I was like, damn, I thought it was a 2-trick pony.
We can cut that part out, right?
It's not a 2-trick pony. I would love to hear the argument for being a 2-trick pony.
It is the launch and the airtime over the
Come on now.
top.
Well, see, it's the launch. Honestly, it's
Come on now.
The launch, it's the airtime over the top hat, and then you get a 200-foot drop.
Byron, if you remove the launch from this ride, it's not. There's no reason to get on this ride.
You still want to enjoy a 200-foot vertical drop?
Not as much as without the launch is what I'm after. I've been on drops before.
It's definitely the best moment. That's what I'm saying. If you remove the signature moment of it, there are still quality thrills to be had in this ride.
No.
I know I thought this, like, it was like a shower thought I had recently.
Well, it's a
where
bad
I was
thought.
like, I'm like, it's definitely not passing that test. And I'm like,
no, it's incorrect.
Well, I guess it does have 2 to 3 signature moments.
You're not going to seriously argue with me right now that if you remove the launch, that this is a world-class attraction. Are you going to? Is that what you're actually saying right now?
I mean, I've been on plenty of other 200-foot drops, I guess.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Okay, I don't think I'm going to get a fight here. I
I'll give you that.
We're all in agreement.
I mean, I was like just trying to run off a technicality, but I guess if you do say like, yeah, like it doesn't have enough unique qualities going for it, even if it is fun, it would still be a good time. It wouldn't be like the kind of ride I'd be like, yeah, I'll still wait the hour for it.
I mean,
no.
It's less of a one-trick pony than, say, Superman.
Oh, that's for sure. But that's not the question, though. Like,
but if you remove the launch, the airtime, you get airtime in on a lot of coasters.
Yes. Yeah, this one you wouldn't even get the airtime on this hill without that launch because it would be a lift. It would be to get you up there. They would, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think there's not enough going on in the layout that really sets it apart if you remove the launch. So
unless you're a fan of those turns.
I enjoy those turns.
I do like the turns.
Yeah.
Hey,
Don't get me
I
wrong.
enjoy those turns like on Thunder Mountain Railroad too.
Yeah,
It's not what makes
you
Thunder
got that-
Mountain Railroad Thunder Mountain Railroad.
You got that
though.
wind in the
It's-
face, and
It is
and,
that
and
is
you're-
that is the cigarette after a fun night out.
That's 3 for 7. That's a fail. We'll find out the fate of this ride when we come back and get to the last 3 tests. This ride is at 3 for 7. Let's get to test number 8, the premature detraculation test. Does this ride finish too soon? Well, here's the thing. Most coasters aren't long rides. The spirit of this test, does it finish too soon, is are you satisfied at the end of this ride? Do you feel unsatisfied at the end of this? Because for me personally, and I'm honestly not even saying this because of where we're at rubric-wise. I'm saying this truthfully. I'm fully satisfied after this ride. Do I wish it was a little longer? Of course. But the launch and the hill and the ejector is enough for me to be like, I got what I came for. And you get a little cruising at the end. This is going to be controversial, and I'm probably going to get some heat for it, but I don't care. I'm gonna pass it. I'm gonna say that right now. I'm gonna pass it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. When I was talking about when you go back to the station and people are applauding.
I've never seen someone be like, "That's it" at the end of this ride.
Yeah.
Like everyone at the end of this ride is catching their breath.
Totally.
I think that's the spirit of the test.
Yeah.
Come on, Byron.
I don't know. Well, I mean, like, look, you guys could 2/3 me out, actually.
That's true. We could 2/3 you. We have quorum.
It is weird. Like, it's really weird.
That's assuming Chris is voting a pass. I don't know if he might be.
Yeah,
more,
you just need 2/3 vote.
I'm saying right now, I'm passing it. I'm leaving it to you two.
I would go to argue that like Top Thrill Dragster is way too short.
Yeah.
Like they added the turns in there. It goes above and beyond what just having a launch.
But would you not agree that the pre-launch moments, being in the car, having it pull back and having the click of anticipation, that's not part of the ride as much as the launch?
Oh, that's totally part of the ride. Yeah,
and if that's the case, we're looking at 1 minute 2 seconds of runtime.
It doesn't have a lift hill, and that's kind of adds length to rides, right?
Yeah.
So when people talk about how long a ride is,
That's true.
Right.
We don't often talk like post lift hill to brakes. We talk about the whole ride, and we neglect the lift hill, but it's added to the time, so it inflates it. Coasters should be graded on a curve, I think, and I do think this ride is fully satisfying given what it's selling, which is thrill, fear, and it delivers on that.
And there's nothing after that launch and that awesome airtime over the top hat where you're like, yep, I needed more.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad I'm alive.
You're like, yeah, I'm good.
That's true. You're taking a victory lap. It's,
at the end, I need that cool down. That's why I like the cool down after. I know people complain about that. I always thought that was crazy.
Those turns, honestly, I think those turns are very fun.
And look, I'm not coming after you if you don't like the post top hat, whatever. You're crazy. I don't like, you're crazy in that, like, if you want to be tortured the entire time, go for it. But I like the cool down.
Look, I will say that on paper, initially, I think this is definitely a fail at first thought. However, I've never felt like I was cheated out of a ride. Every time I hit the brake run, I always feel very satisfied.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because you're hitting the face so hard with that launch that anything after that just feels like bonus time. Extra ride time, and it does feel like you're kind of coasting this fun victory lap after taking on this exhilarating experience.
There's nothing about this detraculation that's premature.
Statistics don't point to this passing, yet there are so many other rides I would fail before this one. And I do always feel satisfied when I hit the brake run. So
there it is.
Fuck it, it's a pass.
Let's go. All right, that's 4 for 8. Moving on. Test number 9, the exit hall test. Oh, I think we're gonna get home. Do you see people be physically excited getting off of this ride? Do they have that bounce in their step? This is basically based off of when you see people walk through the exit hall or the exit. Are they like animated? Are they like jazzed? And yes, this might be among some of the highest. People are losing their minds when they get off this ride.
Once again, the only reason why I think it passes the premature detraculation test is because the bounce is so damn high. It doesn't even need to be what your average coaster runtime is.
Even as Chris alluded to earlier, people clap at the end of this ride. And it's not that Universal Studios Hollywood clap where the ride attendants are clapping to make you clap at the end. People are like actually clapping.
It kicks ass. Come on.
No one's gonna argue this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
We'll get some flack for the other one.
It's a pass.
5 for not.
It's a good thing the restroom is right there.
Yeah, exactly. Test number 10. And if we pass this one, it'll be in debate land, which is exactly where I wanted it to land. Fine wine test. Has this ride aged well? Has your opinion of the attraction appreciated or depreciated since your first experience? Or if it's a new ride, do you believe it will age well?
It's absolutely aged beautifully.
I agree. And no better evidence of that than the two, the rides that came after it leaving, and it still stands. It stood the test of time, quite literally.
Well, that too, but also when it reopened last year, I was the first rider, front row.
Yeah.
And the excitement that I had for that ride was equal or greater than when I first rode it back in 2002.
Yeah.
I was amped.
Yeah.
I got off the ride and I said, God, it felt like it launched faster.
I had a similar experience when I got off where I was like, wow, did that get faster? And I think what it was the time in between rides, but it was also all the other launch coasters I had been on since then, like in the time in between, and they don't compare.
Yeah, they don't.
So when you step up to this, you are reminded like, oh, this still is a league above everything else in terms of that. And until that changes, it won't age in my head. It needs to be topped. And I'm saying that fully acknowledging that once again, I have not been on King to Ka. I have not been on Top Thrill. You have, Chris has, but I feel emboldened to say that if you and a lot of folks online agree that it seems to be more of a forceful launch, or at the very least comparable.
I'll say I like it more than Max Force at Six Flags Great America.
Have you been on that?
I have not. I haven't been to Six Flags Great America.
And that one has a faster launch.
Is that hydraulic or compressed air?
That's compressed air.
Well, Dota Dumpa, rest in peace, also was compressed air, right?
Correct. Yeah, that was also SNS.
And that was the highest, that was 112 miles an hour in 1.8, which is like getting shot out of a cannon. It's in Japan. It's closed now, but
like, let's say even in a world where it's second to that, or even if it was second to King to Ka or Top Thrill, King to Ka are gone. And even if it was second to Max Force, that's still world class. That's still like not aging poorly. That's not like a knock on this ride.
Yeah.
I think even in that context, this still has aged beautifully in that it's among, like, you could count on one hand coasters that are more forceful to it, if you can at all.
Yeah.
I think that's worth something. I can't imagine someone making an argument that this thing is aged horribly, other than the fact that, it does break down a lot.
I was going to say, someone could argue that it's not reliable. However, one could also argue that it's never been reliable.
I was just going to say that.
It has never been reliable.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Every time I try and prepare myself for this launch, it's
intimate. It's never going to be reliable.
If not more awesome than what I'm anticipating. I've never been on a launch like it. The closest I think I've done is Storm Runner. But still not quite the same. There's just something different about launching out of the station at that clip, that gut punch. This is aged tremendously, and it's the OG hydraulic launch coaster, and for all we know, this is going to be the last.
Yeah, the last of a dying breed. Well, if that's the case, it seems like it's a pass all around, which gets us then to 6. That gets us to 6 out of 10, which means this is at debate land. We could each say our piece of why we think it's a world-class attraction, and then we just vote yes or no. I pretty much have made my argument. I think you'll be hard-pressed to find many coasters in the world that have more forceful of a launch than this. That alone puts it in a world-class standing just from the fact that you would have to travel here to experience something like this. And the fact that it was the OG and is still the remaining, I think, is also a testament to its greatness. So I think it's a world-class attraction.
You can't really get the experience anywhere else, if so a few places, and even so, I don't know if launch coasters are what they are today if this didn't motivate what they could be. So I would say it's world-class, in my opinion.
First for posterity, yeah, I guess.
It's a piece of shit. All of this is a lie.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. With what you guys said, it is definitely a world-class coaster. But I'm gonna go even more here. So we're all talking about the incredible launch on it.
Yeah.
It's also in a world-class park.
I agree.
Beautifully themed.
I think it's pretty Well, unanimous then. That's that. Congratulations to Xcelerator. I don't know, that doesn't mean anything to you, but according to us, you are a world-class attraction.
Get on it while you can, everybody.
Yeah, seriously. Actually,
definitely.
Consider this your PSA.
Yeah.
Thank you again for joining us, Chris. This has been amazing.
Thank you for having me. This has been awesome to talk about the ride that basically started ACN and everything.
It birthed ACN.
For the most part. I mean, it's my first update, and I can't believe I was 19 when I was doing that.
Oh my God.
I know.
And next thing you know, you're in 2024 still covering an innovative Intamin coaster but this time over at Universal.
In 2002, if somebody was like, in 2024, you're going to still be talking about Xcelerator.
And then now Hollywood Drift. Is there anything you'd like to plug while you're here?
I think you kind of did that. I mean, I have America's Coaster Network on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, got Knott's Berry Farm updates, Magic Mountain updates, and now Universal updates, which I never thought I'd be at Universal Studios covering the construction of a coaster.
Who knows? We could be looking at the new Top Dog there. Who knows? But anyways, that does it for this episode of For Your Amusement. If you're watching, make sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Or if you're listening, please rate the podcast 5 stars and subscribe as well. And once again, consider supporting us by joining our fourth wall and becoming a park hopper, as we're calling it, by heading to fyapod.com. As mentioned up top, it'll help us keep this madness going, but you'll also get up to 3 monthly bonus shows in addition to the free main show you just watched. And you'll also find our merch there as well. And thank you to those who are already park hoppers. For you audio listeners, here's 10 names of e-ticketers we'd like to thank: Caitlin Clymer, Nathan Johnson, AJ Meyer, Gina M, Jacobit 28, Andy Berlin, A Gonzalez 1001, Hillary, Marissa Patby, Disney Johnson Bro. Follow the pod socials at FYA Pod everywhere. I'm at Ryan Bergara everywhere, but Twitter where I'm at Ryan S. Bergara. The other one was taken. And at Byron Marin is Byron's social across all of them. Thanks for spending your time with us. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you guys on the next ride.
All right.
Bye-bye.